MMA fans, welcome back to Carlo Prusa MMA. I am Carlo Prusa with a very, very special guest. My guest is a multiple-time UFC champion. He's a true pioneer of combat sports and mixed martial arts. He is an Army veteran. He is Captain America. He's the natural, Mr. Randy Couture. Randy, what an honor it is to sit with you today. We're out here at BornUnited. You're about to do a signing. When you think about it, you've been at this, in this world of combat sports for a very, very long time. You've done tons of appearances. Does it ever get old? Do you still enjoy coming out and meeting your fans?
No, I enjoy it. We have amazing fans. It's going to be a great day here at BornUnited. First time here in Charleston, and amazing store. A really, really cool place. So excited to see everybody today. And yeah, this has become a regular thing for me in '97 when I started fighting.
You know, the BornUnited brand really prides themselves on standing up for freedom and those who defend it. Obviously, with your military background, you probably have a lot of similarities. You guys were able to collab and do a shirt together. What is it like to work with individuals who also have that love for the military and the United States?
Wow, it's important, especially these days, because a lot of that's being overlooked. We seem to be more wrapped up in illegals than we are the guys that actually stood up for this country, and it's a big issue.
You know, you have been at the sport for a very, very long time, and, you know, there's a lot of fans who watch MMA right now. It's extremely mainstream, but I think they forget that 15, 20 years ago, it wasn't the case. Yeah. So one question I wanted to ask you was, in the early days for you, do you have any crazy fight stories of maybe fighting in promotions with unsafe fighting conditions, bad medicals, mystery opponents? Do you have anything wild?
No, you know, my very first fight was a UFC 13. We ran towards regulation. Tried to be accepted as you know, not a fringe sport, but a real sport, a legitimate sport, and we've worked very hard over the years to see that happen. I think a big game changer for our sport was The Ultimate Fighter. The first season of The Ultimate Fighter back in '05 really gave people a bird's eye view of what it meant to be a fighter and what we were all about. And everybody somehow had a misconception that we were criminals, that somehow we were crazy because we got in a cage and fought another guy. But it was really our opportunity to use martial arts skills that most of us have been developing our whole lives and put ourselves out there and be a professional athlete, which is a pretty unique thing in our society. So we have some structural issues in our sport. There's no transparency. We don't have and enjoy the protections of the Muhammad Ali Act like boxers do to protect them for promoters. And I think the powers that be knew that when they bought the brand in 2001. So we've been lobbying to try and get the Ali Act amended to cover all combative sports athletes, not just boxers. Create some transparency, make the promoters disclose how much money they make off any single event, so that we can then, as fighters, negotiate our fair value in the marketplace and get our fair share of the revenues that come in from our sport. Right now, the athletes are making between 13 and 15% of the money that comes in on any given event in our sport. And like I said, there's a structural issue as well. The guys that are setting those rankings and determining who gets a shot at those titles should not be the same guy that has a stable of 650 fighters. It's way too much power. It's not how it's supposed to work, and that's not a traditional prize fighting model. That's a lot more of a WWE model. Well, let's see who makes the most noise and makes the biggest publicity stunts. That's the guy we're going to give the shot at the title because he's the guy that's going to sell pay-per-views, and that's a problem in traditional prize fighting. Now, I've been working with the Professional Fighters League for a few years now. We're in our 8th season, and they took MMA and put it in a true sports format. We have a regular season, a playoff, and a championship every year, like every other sport we're so used to. It's a little bit different. The fighters are stepping up and fighting basically 4 times in 8 months, which is a big ask, but these guys have embraced it. It's been an amazing thing to watch. And meritocracy. It's not about publicity stunts and shit talking. It's about going out and scoring criteria points to make it to those playoffs and get a shot at that title. That puts the destiny of those fighters in their own hands. It's not about some promoter, whether he likes you or not, is going to give you the ranking and give you the bump to get a shot at the title. So having that control is a big thing for athletes and something that I've enjoyed watching unfold with the Professional Fighters League.
You know, for me personally and so many other people, I started becoming a huge fan of the sport because of the first season of Ultimate Fighter. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, at the time, the sport was kind of a little fringe, as you could say. People didn't really understand what it was. When you were first pitched the idea to go on there with Chuck and live in the house with these guys and coach them, did you have any idea of the impact it could have on the sport as a whole?
No, I think we were hopeful. And you know, Zuffa, the Fertittas, and Dana White, when they bought the brand, they threw a lot of money and had a lot of savvy to try and restructure the sport, give it a new face, run towards regulation, like I said, use the unified rules, modify those even a little bit, and continue to run towards that acceptance, being governed by the ABC, the Association of Boxing Commissions, and all the athletic commissions across the country, both on the Indian reservations and in the regular world. It's been very interesting to see all that unfold and see the sport grow the way it has. Fastest growing sport on the globe right now. So, but we definitely are having some growing pains, and we have some work to do. We need to unite as fighters. We're the commodity. Without the fighters, there is no show. And so if we at least come together, create a fighters association, which there is one, the Mixed Martial Arts Fighters Association. We're the ones lobbying in Congress, trying to get the Ali Act amended and all that stuff. They're lobbying very hard against us, of course. But I think I don't even know where I was going with that. But the sport is amazing, but we have some work to do.
When you look at the mixed martial arts landscape today, it's a lot different than maybe 15, 20 years ago in the sense that you have a multitude of different promotions and shows. Obviously, you have your UFCs, but you have your PFLs, you have your ones, you have your Bellator, you have Bare Knuckles been taking off. Does that just show the growth of the sport in general, seeing all these different platforms where guys can go out and make a living and fight high-level competition?
Yeah, I think that's an indication of the explosion of this sport. In many ways, the Gracies revolutionized martial arts with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and a lot of the mysterious one-inch punch stuff and the Hollywoodization of martial arts has gone away because of this sport, and it's become its own hybrid. The athletes are getting better, the technique and the tactics, and getting more out of our bodies. I think across the board in athletics in general, but certainly in fighting. I fought till I was 47. There's a lot of guys fighting into their 40s and getting the most out of themselves. So the science of athletics has come a long way in that regard as well.
You have so many great moments of your career, but one that definitely stands out to me, obviously that run at the heavyweight title in your 40s. What was the mindset then? Do you think, were you a different mindset than when you first broke into the sport at that point?
Well, I think I was settled and I knew exactly where I was at and what I wanted to accomplish. I got in this sport on a whim. I saw, oh my God, look at this sport. I saw other wrestlers like Dan Severn, Don Fry, Mark Coleman, who I'd competed against and knew through the wrestling world, that were making a living at this sport. So I was immediately drawn to it and saw the application of years and years of wrestling experience to be a professional athlete. So it was a pretty cool thing, but again, on a whim. And then after the 2000 Olympics, when I retired from the sport of wrestling, I could focus solely on fighting. And that's when I said, wow, okay, I'm going to actually set some goals and go out and try to accomplish some things in this sport where my first 4 fights were a whirlwind. I ended up, wearing a title belt after my 4th fight. I'm like, what the hell just happened? It was crazy. So it's been an interesting journey for sure.
All right, Randy, last question for you. What's next for you? What are some goals that you want to accomplish going forward? What are you up to these days?
Man, I'm having a blast chasing acting jobs. Obviously Expendables 4 just last year come out and has done very well. I've started a new one here in the fall called Pitfall that should be fun. Just having fun acting, having fun commentating with the Professional Fighters League, continuing to promote the sport, hanging out with all the guys at Extreme Couture and seeing the gym flourish under my son's tutelage and Eric Nixick and Dennis Davis and just the whole crew of guys in there that are doing amazing things in the sport.
All right, Randy, well, thank you so much for talking with me today. That's Randy Couture. I'm Carlo Prusa. Stick around.